So let's talk about the history of Mexico. It's this incredible story of radical transformation. We're going to go on a journey from these absolutely monumental empires, places that rivaled any in the world, all the way through collision and conquest to the birth of the complex, dynamic nation we know today. To really get Mexico, you have to start before the Spanish arrived. So picture this, it's 1519. You're approaching Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital. This isn't just some city, it's home to over 200,000 people, kind of like a Venice of the Americas, with these towering pyramids that seem to just rise right out of a vast lake. This wasn't some new world. No, this was the absolute peak of a civilization thousands of years in the making. Right, so our story really begins in this vibrant region of empires we call Mesoamerica. Think of it as a cradle of civilization that had already been thriving for over 3,000 years before any Europeans showed up. And you gotta forget any notion of simple, primitive societies. These were civilizations building massive cities, developing really complex social hierarchies, and they even invented unique writing systems. At the heart of all of it was maize, or corn. That was the agricultural engine that fueled this entire world of profound complexity and achievement. The foundations for all this? Well, they were laid by cultures like the Olmec, often called the mother culture of the whole region. Their influence really paved the way for groups like the Maya. And the Maya weren't a single empire, but this network of powerful city-states. And get this, they developed the only fully complete writing system in all of the pre-Columbian Americas. Pretty amazing. So, this cultural evolution leads to these absolutely incredible places, like Teotihuacan. At its peak, this was one of the largest cities on the entire planet. Its influence was felt all across Mesoamerica. And yet, its origins are still one of history's great mysteries. We're still not totally sure who built it. Okay, so after Teotihuacan's decline, the Toltecs rose to power. Their capital, Tula, guarded by these huge, imposing warrior statues, it became legendary. So much so that the Aztecs, who came next, basically revered the Toltecs as their cultural ancestors, like they were the very definition of a great civilization. And that, of course, brings us to the Aztecs, or the Mexica, which is what they actually called themselves. They were the final great power of Mesoamerica. They built this massive tribute empire of 10 million people, all ruled from that stunning capital, Tenochtitlan. They were standing right at the apex of this world, just before it was all about to change forever. Because that powerful world, well, it was on a collision course with another one. This next era is all about conquest and the painful, really complex birth of a totally new society, New Spain. The year 1519, that's the turning point. Hernan Cortés lands with just a few hundred men, and he's facing an empire of millions. What happened next wasn't just a military campaign. No, it was a biological and cultural cataclysm that would literally reshape an entire continent. You see, Spanish steel wasn't their deadliest weapon. Disease was. Smallpox, an illness the indigenous peoples had absolutely no immunity to, just swept through the population like wildfire. This invisible ally of the conquistadors killed millions, shattering the Aztec Empire from the inside out. And from the ashes of that conquest, a new colonial society emerged. It was a complex and, let's be honest, a deeply unequal world, meticulously organized around this rigid social hierarchy based entirely on race and birthplace. It's a system you can see perfectly captured in these Costa paintings. So here's how it worked. At the very top, you had the Peninsulares. These were people born in Spain. Just below them, the Criollos, people of Spanish descent, but born in the Americas. Then came the mestizos, of mixed heritage, followed by the vast indigenous populations, and right at the very bottom, enslaved Africans. For 300 years, this rigid system would define everything, life, power, and opportunity in New Spain. But a system like that, well, it creates tension. And after 3 centuries, that tension just exploded. This next chapter is all about Mexico's violent struggle to become a nation on its own terms. The spark came on September 16, 1810. A priest, a guy named Miguel Hidalgo, delivered his famous Cry of Dolores. It was this passionate call to arms against Spanish rule that ignited a brutal, decade-long war for independence. So, after finally winning independence in 1821, Mexico faced this monumental task. It had to build a national identity, basically from scratch. Who are we now?
And you can see this process at work in visuals like this centennial program. It's purposely weaving this single story, connecting the nation's heroes to forge a new, shared sense of what it meant to be Mexican. But freedom did not bring stability. Oh no, not even close. Get this. In the 50 years right after independence, Mexico's presidency changed hands 75 times. 75! And this chaos wasn't just some political musical chairs. It was a symptom of these incredibly deep divisions over what the new nation should even be. And of course, that kind of internal instability, it left the new nation dangerously vulnerable. The 19th century just became this relentless series of conflicts. You had internal civil wars like the Reform War, foreign invasions from powers like France, and then, most devastatingly, the Mexican-American War, which cost the nation nearly half of its entire territory. All of this turmoil, though, it eventually led to the nation's second great founding event, the Mexican Revolution, and this would define the country for the next 100 years and really set the stage for modern Mexico. The Mexican Revolution kicked off in 1910, and it was a bloody, decade-long struggle. It was basically a mass uprising against a system where a tiny elite owned pretty much everything, and the vast majority of people had nothing. The conflict would end up costing over 1 million lives, and it would fundamentally reshape every single aspect of Mexican society and politics. Out of the revolution's ashes rose the PRI, a political party that would go on to dominate Mexico for an incredible 71 years. Think about that, 71 years. It brought stability, for sure, and it implemented some major reforms, but often at the cost of real democracy. That whole era came to a stunning end in the year 2000, right as the country was also opening up its economy through free trade deals like NAFTA. It was another profound transformation. And that brings us to today. I mean, modern Mexico is a vibrant democracy, it's an economic powerhouse, but it's still wrestling with these really deep-seated challenges, things like economic inequality, corruption, and violence, many of which, as you can see, have roots that stretch back centuries. So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that Mexico's story is not a smooth, straight line. Not at all. It's a history of dramatic ruptures and radical reinventions. It's really a testament to a culture's incredible resilience in the face of profound and often very violent change. Which, of course, leaves us with one final question. For a nation that's been defined by constant transformation, I mean, from the fall of an empire built on a lake to the end of a 71-year political era, you just have to wonder, as Mexico confronts its future, what will its next great reinvention be?